Alright, Bonehogs, this video is all about Shujinko. We're just going to take a little detour here from Quan Chi for the time being. Kind of, he'll still be in the video here, but there's so many comments that I get from people that are like, what does Shujinko even do? And the game's been out for a while, and to be fair, no one uses this cameo. Like the only people that use the cameo, like there's a few people that comment here on the videos, but there's lots of people that don't even know what this cameo does. So I'm going to break down each steal from each character here, as easy and simple as I can, and I'm going to rank them all. And then at the end, I'll show you the complete tier list I've come up with how good or bad Shujinko steals are. We have 5 tiers, rating from D tier all the way up to S tier. And I'm just going to start the roster from all the way left here with Katana, just go all the way right, then we're going to go down, then we'll go back all the way left. So that being said, if you wanted to learn a little bit about Shujinko and maybe what it takes to fight against that character, let's get into it.
Accept your death.
So I'm just going to break down the tier list really quick for you. So kind of why I decided to put people where I put them. S tier are obviously his absolutely best steals that he gets in the game. A tier are really, really good steals, but there might be 1 or 2 things about them that kind of keep them a little bit lower. B tier is like usually 1 good steal and 1 steal is kind of meh. C tier is basically both kind of meh. And then D tier is why would you even pick Shujinko in this matchup? And then just a quick rundown of how Shujinko works. So Shujinko steals 2 moves from the opponent. One takes 1 bar of meter, as you can see, and the other move takes his entire Kameo meter. So you get to use 1 move twice, or 1 generally better move once. And then you have to charge him up again. You can charge him up at any time. His charge up is an ambush attack, which leads me to the first things I'm going to put on the tier list, which is Shujinko's Conquest Kick and A-Pep Punch, as well as his general charge move. And these are just on the B tier list because they're not really steals, they're just the only core moves that he has. And their main utility, they're nothing special, it's just basically you need them to play the character. The punch and the kick both connect into majority of steals, just depending a little bit on spacing and that kind of thing. So that out of the way, we're here with Katana. So Shujinko from Katana steals the air flying kick, square wave I think it's called. This isn't a fantastic steal. This is I guess it has some utility if you read like an anti-air or something like that, but talking to Katana mains, they're like, that's not even a move that Katana would use. So Shujinko gets a little bit more use out of it as we're actually throwing Shujinko, not doing the move ourselves, so there's that. But largely not a fantastic steal. And he also steals the fan lift as well, which is a little bit better, kind of difficult to, depending on your character, obviously difficult to combo mid-screen. Some can do better than others, but it is a nice launcher, and of course combos off of the punch. The kick can combo, but it's a little bit different, so I have placed the Katana steals in the B tier category. So nice and easy, just going to go through this. If you have any questions at all, I really am excited. I love this character. He's so much fun. Takes a lot of effort, but he's a lot of fun. Leave them in the comments down below. I'll be sure to answer them. Okay, so keep in mind as well that you're only learning these matchups 1 at a time. So these Shujinko steals for Melina, say, you're never going to use Melina's role in a matchup against, say, General Shao. So there's no reason to think, but you just got to focus on this one matchup, how you use the role against specifically Melina. So something that I didn't really wrap my head around at first. I was like, oh, why would you use this steal in this matchup? And it's like, oh, obviously, duh. That's not how that works. So yeah, Melina steals the ball roll, which is a great launcher. And of course, you can combo into it using the punch or the kick, depending on whatever character you're using, and go to that combo there. Also steals the size, but in true Shujinko fashion, he does it better than Melina. His size go full screen, whereas she needs to enhance them to make it go full screen, and it can be super unsafe if it's blocked. So Shujinko takes her projectile and actually makes it better. So I have put Melina in the A tier as far as steals go for Shujinko, and don't worry, at the end of this I'll just show you a visual of the whole tier list so you can see. But yeah, right now Melina is in the A tier because not only do we get a really good hit confirmable launcher, any launcher that Shujinko steals is very, very hit confirmable because you can do it from your combo into the punch or kick and then into the launcher. So if you see that your combo doesn't hit or they block it, you can either stop it at the punch, Shujinko's usually safe, or at least you know, a fair distance away, and then just go into something else. So yeah, Melina steals, pretty straightforward. Size and the roll, both pretty decent steals. A tier for sure. So in the Tanya matchup, Shujinko steals the drill kick, which again, very hit confirmable launcher into whatever combo that your character can do with him. So very good steal there. And he also steals the Heavenly Hand, I think it's called, her projectile. But where she does it, where it's usually it just hits you as a high for 60 damage and plus 32 hit advantage, Shujinko's actually knocks you down. So it knocks you down with 46 hit advantage. So we're in a similar boat to Melina, where Shujinko, everything you can do, I can do better, takes your projectile and actually does it better than Tanya does. So I actually have this in the A tier as well, for the same reason. Got a launcher and a really good kind of utility move. Alright, moving on to the Piss Wizard here, Rain. So Shujinko steals his projectile, except unlike the first two that we talked, he doesn't make it any better. He just does the exact same projectile. It has the same hit advantage. It has the same hit animation. It's the same thing. The nice thing is, though, he does steal the launch from Rain, which, similar to Katana, is a little bit of an awkward one mid-screen, but in the corner you can do some really serious damage. So I have put this at the B tier for one pretty good steal and one kind of mediocre kind of utility, I'll say. Alright, this next one here is Smoke, and this is one that I'm kind of torn on because I really want to put it in the A tier, but it's just the forward Shujinko steal, which is this one, and perhaps this is character dependent and there's a character that works with this particular steal that I'm just not familiar with, but I've used 4 different characters so far and none of them have really been able to do much with this. I've tried using it as a combo ender, and sometimes in some situations it works, but usually because it has to hit an airborne opponent by the time your combo gets to that place, the gravity is just too much. You can't really hit it anyways. But going off of that, his big steal is he can turn any character invisible. So now every character in the game has invisible 50/50s against Smoke. Since Smoke can do it himself, we're just even the ties, which is absolutely incredible steal. And that in itself, even if he doesn't have, it might be almost broken to give him like a good forward steal and having the invisibility. So I get that. I still kind of put it as a B though. Invisibility doesn't last super long, usually enough to get one good mix-up in, which is still good, don't get me wrong. I'm not hating on that at all. I'm not saying like buff invisibility or no, none of that. But just only having one move it's a little bit detrimental, I think. I would totally entertain arguments the other way though. But yeah, I have it for now in the B tier. Moving on next, we've got Scorpion, and our big steal from Scorpion is the spear, but in, to keep with the everything you can do, I can do better, Shujinko's spear is only -3 on block, as opposed to Scorpion's, who is quite a bit more than that. So, and it's also kind of nice. I'm sure this is probably a Scorpion mirror thing too. I don't think this is typical to just Shujinko, but he can like full screen whiff punish Scorpion spear with Shujinko spear. Like I said, that's probably a Scorpion mirror thing, I don't know, but it is kind of nice. And then his 1-bar steal he can do is this crazy chip damage one right here. So he can basically give any character some absolutely insane chip damage to close out a round. Or if you wanted to use it as a combo ender, there's some characters like Sindel I was doing this with, where you can use the actual spear, start the combo, start charging Shujinko back, and by the end of the combo, use his 1-bar steal to get more damage at the end of the combo, which is super sick, and that's great. Like, I think at the high level, once people really get to know this, and that's kind of what I'm working on right now, is using the 2-bar steal to start something, charging him while I'm doing that, stopping him charging, and then using the 1-bar steal to end the combo. And Scorpion works really, really well with this. And this is the first character whose steals I'm putting in the S tier. Alright, so next moving on to Reptile. So our 2-bar steal is the Force Ball, which launches, it's 2 hits, all that kind of goodness. And when Shujinko does the Force Ball, it has significantly more plus frames. So from the starting point, plus on block 27 plus frames, whereas if we did it with Reptile, it's around +8, +9, same kind of thing. And then his Acid Spit, same kind of idea. It actually knocks down, whereas Reptile's does not generally. Reptile doesn't, from what I understand from talking to Reptile players, they don't really use this move that much. Usually I've been using this as a combo ender, and it's not bad, it's not terrible. But it's a lot safer on block at -9 as opposed to when Reptile does it. I think it's -21. So it's safer, knocks down, which I suppose it would be nice to have like a restand situation like Reptiles does. So I'm not really sure if that's a buff or not. But definitely this move is a huge improvement, a really good one to have. Obviously a good hit confirmable into combos, you know. Combo the best you can. And even the super slow moves, like there's one that I'll show you in a bit here, but even super slow moves cancel off of any of the Shujinko attacks, so that's pretty cool, even if they're a little bit slower. So yeah, overall for this Kameo, I put it in the A tier. I think that just both moves are pretty decent steals. The Acid Spit's a good utility, even though it's maybe not the greatest move, but yeah, I put it in the A tier. So Young Sub-Zero. Okay, so Shujinko, our big steal here is the Ice Ball, which we can combo into Ice Ball, which I don't even think Sub-Zero can do because, of course, most things link off of the Shujinko Punch. And, of course, well, he starts the freeze. If you don't want to hit confirm or do it in the middle of a combo, you can just call Shujinko right back and then just continue on your combo and charge him back and then finish your combo with his second steal, 1-bar steal, which is the slide, which is crazy. That is absolutely an insane combination. So you have Ice Ball, which you can use, of course, full screen if you want to, full screen freeze. And of course you have the slide on top of it, which is only the 1-bar steal. Personally, I think this is the best matchup for Shujinko in the game. I think that both of these steals combined are absolutely cracked, and I feel very, very strong and very, very confident going against most Sub-Zeros with most of my character roster. So yeah, obviously this is my S tier, and I think this is probably his best steal. So moving on to Li Mei, so we steal her launching projectile there. I have her set to block, sorry about that. Yeah, which actually the scaling on this is really nice. So you can do like a shorter combo because it kind of launches them into the air, and it can actually do really good damage for not a lot of hits. So yeah, there's just some crazy funky gravity with it. You do have to play around a bit, but it is a really good steal as far as launchers go. And then the downside to this is that his forward steal is not that fantastic. It starts up in 3 frames slower than Li Mei's move, and it doesn't really do anything different. It does the exact same stuff that she does. It's still a good steal, don't get me wrong, but considering it doesn't really lead to anything, and it's perhaps maybe best used as a combo ender, but all in all, it's a decent combination. Like, the launcher is really good and really good scaling. Just this move isn't really fantastic outside of, maybe like a down 1 Shujinko out of pressure. But yeah, I put this overall in the B tier, but I'd be open to suggestions if someone wanted to bump it up to the A tier. I just not really sold on it quite yet. So next is Kenshi, and this is a really interesting one because, of course, everyone knows by now that we steal Sento. Unfortunately, Sento will go away at the first hit. Like, you don't get any sort of recovery from Sento. Sento just disappears as soon as it's hit, and it's gone. There will be some setups and some stuff that you can find. To be honest, I haven't really played around with trying to set up Sento in any sort of meaningful way. Again, it feels like, especially for Quan, when I want to like zone or whatever, like even if I were to send him forward, like if he's just going to go away on the first time of hit, it's kind of tough to get him all the way out there before getting hit by Kenshi, right? And that's Sento being hit or us being hit, so I don't know how good or bad it is. You kind of need to find some way to just keep Sento going. And I'm sure there are ways, don't get me wrong. I think I didn't put this in a low tier because I don't know. I think the potential with it is crazy. I put it in A for now because even if you don't use Sento, which I don't right now, you still get this steal, which is fantastic. Especially because Kenshi is a character that kind of has to get in on you. And having this as a utility in everything else that you have to keep Kenshi away is also a really good steal. So definitely A tier for sure. I just don't know how big of a detrimental thing Sento going away on 1 hit does or is. So yeah, anyone else there who's been using Shujinko with Sento, and if you've figured out some crazy stuff, please let me know, because I'd love to utilize it in my own gameplay. And I think at this point, I'm probably ready and more comfortable now where I can start figuring stuff out, especially now that I have my main character now. So don't want to spend too much time on one character. Moving on. Up next is Baraka, and we steal the Baraka Shard, which is okay. Like, it's a quick projectile for sure, and it's nice, especially if you're in like a zoning war or something. You can just kind of throw it out. But there's nothing that really makes it that much better than Baraka Steel. And in the Baraka matchup, I suppose we want to keep him away, so adding a projectile is good, which I like. That's utility for sure. Nothing too crazy though. Then we also get this move, which gives us an overhead. So adding an overhead is also good utility, but doesn't really lead to much. You can use it to end combos to get a little bit of extra damage. He does the little stabby, just a shorter version of what Baraka does. So a couple good utility moves, but kind of a little lackluster. So this is going to be the first character in our C tier, is Baraka. Next character is Geras, and we steal the Time Stop, which, again, takes on, if you use the second move as a launcher, it'll take on the hit animation, same as Geras does, of the last move that you do. With Sindel, I picked one like heavy hitting move, then a launcher. And you can also use that time to charge Shujinko back, and then end the combo with another Shujinko steal if you want, depending on the character you're using. The second move that Shujinko steals is actually the Tornado move, which is actually another launcher, which is pretty crazy. Depending on the character and how you can combo it, it's kind of nuts. So yeah, technically steals 2 launchers. Pretty cracked. And he can also distance that move too, so he can do a close one. He can do a far one. So you can choose the range with Shujinko, which is pretty nuts. So yeah, definitely have him in the S tier for sure. I don't know if it's quite as good as Sub-Zero because there's a little bit of range to it as well. And, you know, Ice Ball is just a great move. But this is definitely an S tier steal for sure. Next up is Omniman. And I think that Shujinko steals here the Viltrumite stance, which you can use to combo, which Omni-Man actually can't. So that's kind of cool, and you can also use different versions of the stance, and he'll have to react to his own animation, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I think this is a really, really good steal for sure, and again, like everything Shujinko does, easily hit confirmable into whatever, and really good scaling on that as well. The second steal isn't quite as great. He steals a clap. The clap doesn't seem to eliminate projectiles, and here's where it's kind of weird, because of course Omni-Man doesn't have any projectiles, but even like using his Kameo projectiles, sure, Shujinko will tank the hit for it, but I mean, so there's that. But usually I've been using this more as like a combo ender kind of a thing, just for damage, because it does seem to do slightly more damage than my combo enders with a couple different characters. So mileage may vary on that one, but I have Omni-Man in a solid A tier. Alright, so we've made it to the bottom row now. So we're on to Quan Chi, and Quan Chi, he steals the Head Rush move, and he also steals the Bone Dome. So similar to how Geras works, he can actually use different directions for the Bone Dome to put it in different spots. But different to Quan Chi, the Bone Dome actually combos with Shujinko. Boom, boom, so you can use it as a combo starter, which is much better than what Quan Chi can do with it. Not much better, I should say. It's just nice that you can hit confirm it into a combo. Continue your combo on, where usually you would have to make a read on that move, right? So it's a free launcher, essentially, which, of course, good steal. Turning a move that wasn't a launcher into a launcher, similar to how we did with Omni-Man with the Viltrumite stance. So, but there's more to this. So the Head Rush move he steals, if your opponent has the portal open, I see your opponent, because it's a steal, Shujinko will steal the enhanced skulls, and this is just a 1-bar move, so you can kind of throw this in their face. Do it twice at them like that, and yeah, it's a really, really good steal. The Head Rush itself is kind of meh. It's a projectile, sure, whatever. But yeah, stealing the actual purple skull portion of it is really, really good, on top of having a launcher already. So I definitely put this in the S tier as far as steals go. All right, I'm gonna try and speed along the last few ones here. Thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you so much. Hopefully you've been enjoying it. Leave a like if you are. It helps more people find us. So in this one, this is one of the weird ones where like the combo launcher that we steal isn't like that fantastic. It's super slow. It actually is one of the few moves that doesn't combo from the Shujinko hits. But in general, it's just a good move. Like, he rips his head open. Shujinko ripping his head open is hilarious. Yeah, so we use this projectile, which as long as you can get it started, has some really, really good utility. But generally what I use in this matchup is more of the torso spin, which is different than Havoc's, as it's +4 on block. Which is Havoc's, I believe, is quite negative and leaves him in your face. But we can end any combo into the torso spin and be +4. And with pushback and with chip damage. So that's really, really good. Just given a little bit how slow this last one is to start up, I mean, the fact that it doesn't combo, I didn't put this in S tier, I have an A tier, but still a really, really good steal. So this one is interesting to me because it didn't really change my mind until recently, because Shujinko steals Natara's jump, which isn't really a combo starter, and maybe in some characters can be used in extension. Let me know if you used it before. But with the 4 characters that I've used with Shujinko, I haven't really found any use for it until recently, where I changed my mindset and I was like, I'm only going to be using it in this Natara matchup. Natara likes to be in the air. So this is actually really good at just sniping her in the air. If she's just trying to float at you with some of her crazy moves, just boom, throw him out there, you're completely safe on the ground. Shujinko just, if he whiffs, he whiffs. He's up in the air. If he hits, you get a combo opportunity depending on your character. So that's some pretty decent utility. But then he also steals, his 1 bar steal is the acid spit, or blood spit, sorry, not acid, reptile in the brain. Which the idea of Shujinko spitting blood is hilarious. I think it's really funny. But the move isn't really that great. I guess it knocks down what I don't think that Natara's does. Overall, this is in the same tier as Baraka. We're in the C tier, where it offers some decent utility, but you might want to, at the C tier level, you might want to think about picking a different Kameo. Like, he does some good stuff, okay stuff, but there's probably more juice at this tier level anyways. Against Asher, we steal the Rising Uppercut, which can be a little bit awkward to combo mid-screen, but is a good steal, and similar to Katana and Rain, like, it's kind of weird, but like does scale very nicely, so that's really good. And then we also steal this move, which is really good and knocks down, whereas hers just kind of stuns. So if you're trying to have a zoning war, keep her out, play the neutral. I actually use this move more than I use the launcher until I get to the corner, and that's where it becomes a little bit easier to kind of use her launcher because there's not as much pushback. You can kind of do whatever combo is easier for you. But some characters can probably combo with it a little bit easier mid-screen. Either way, it's a good steal, and this move in particular is kind of cracked to steal. So I have this in the A tier. Against Kung Lao, we steal the Hat Toss, which is okay. We actually have less hit advantage on it than Kung Lao gets, which kind of sucks. So it's not one of the few instances where it's not really everything you can do, I can do better. But the second steal is really good. It's this move, which is projectile invulnerable, so it'll eat any projectiles. You can move them around the screen, and he kind of has to block it. And of course, you're safe back here. It's just vulnerable to teleports, so it's pretty good utility. There's a little bit of counterplay to it. I put it in the B tier because this is really good, and you know, this character like Kung Lao likes to jump. The projectile does have a pretty big hitbox, so it can kind of catch some jumpy people. Not really what I would rely on, but more the projectile and vulnerability thing is kind of nice, especially if you want to zone or get a good knockdown. 35 hit advantage, not bad. Johnny Cage. So if you play like a really good zoner, like Quan Chi or Shang Tsung, this is actually, interestingly enough, not a terrible steal because Shujinko steals a Shadow Kick, which is actually really good in tandem with your projectiles to kind of move Johnny away. If Johnny's trying to get in, Shujinko Kick, boom, really good. And then he also steals the Enhanced Nut Punch, which is a restand. So you can do your whole combo and end it into a restand with the Johnny Nut Punch for no damage. So this is actually a really good steal. I like this combination together. It might vary a little bit more depending on the character that you're playing, but all in all, I have it in the A tier. Except for Shujinko still, we were 2 patches in now, and Shujinko still raises up Johnny's star power when he does his steals. So I think this is kind of like similar to the Quan Chi thing, where like it's just on the negative way, where like, yes, he's stealing literally the exact move, he's stealing his exact kick, and it will raise his star power. So, which these 2 moves do really well against Johnny Cage, so maybe that's a balance thing. Maybe it's still a glitch, not really sure. That's what it is. So from Liu Kang, we steal the combo launcher here, and also the low fireball, which depending on matchup can be good or bad. As a couple little zoning options for us here, so it's not terrible. Mid-screen, the launcher is a little bit weird, but all in all, there are two really solid steals from Liu Kang, so I have this in the A tier, which the tier list that I have doesn't actually have Liu Kang on it for whatever reason, so I used Madame Bo in his placeholder when you see the visual at the end. Alright, so Raiden, we steal the teleport is our 2-bar steal, and it's actually a can combo. It's a low attack, and it's only -3 on block. So, and even if your character can't combo into it or doesn't optimize the combos into it, giving literally any character a teleport is actually pretty cracked. That's really, really good. Second steal isn't quite as good. It's his projectile that he can hold. Like, if you can manage to hold it or set that up, that's really, really good. But it's going to be a little bit slow for most characters. I've been working on some stuff in this particular matchup with Quan Chi. Unfortunately, because Raiden himself has a teleport, he can just teleport on us. But if we see Raiden doing the exact same thing, we can use Shujinko to teleport us behind him and just punish him for charging his projectile. So all in all, I gave this an A. I don't think it's quite strong enough to be an S, but it's still a really, really good steal. All right, so Reiko. Reiko, we steal the little slide, which can kind of switch sides. There's no real option to stay on the same side, so whenever we use this, we have to switch sides. So you can kind of use this as a combo ender, because it does do a little bit more damage than most moves, so that's a thing, I suppose. But our 2-bar steal is a parry. So not only am I making a read on something that you're doing, I'm using my entire Kameo bar to do so in a very, very tight window, and if we do manage to hit our parry, the damage scaling is bad. It's not good. The combo we're going to do is not fantastic. This is the only matchup that I would say never use Shujinko in. This is... We've 2 patches in now, and they haven't changed this, so there's either something at this point in time I haven't figured out about Shujinko versus Reiko that NRS knows about, or they just want me to suffer in this matchup. I've tried different characters. I don't know who benefits. This is nice, I guess, but this matchup is just not fantastic. This is the only character I have in D tier for the Shujinko steals. All right, so Sindel. Sindel is really good. We get the hair whip, which is hilarious, seeing Shujinko whip his hair back and forth. And instead of hers just being standing, we get a little bit of extra knockdown with the down forward 1 than she does. And also, we steal her flip kick, which is an overhead, and it's a launcher, which she doesn't get. Hers is just an overhead. So we can create like kind of fun to blockable scenarios here, like overhead there, which usually wouldn't be the case. Or we could do a string that might end in a low. This isn't the greatest example, but what I got. Use an overhead instead. I was using Sindel's forward 4 into Shujinko, which is hit everybody because they're expecting the forward 4 into the low. So yeah, you get mix-ups on top of an enhanced projectile. This is definitely an A tier steal for sure. All right, so General Shao. So we steal the low attack from General Shao, which is quite slow, but regardless of that, a Shujinko attack still combos into it. So you can do whatever combo after that as long as you link it with a Shujinko punch. And the same thing with the overhead that we steal. We get a low, we get an overhead, we get mix, we get combos. It's fairly safe, although there is a gap there that you can kind of poke out of. In fact, the low, if I remember correctly, is ridiculously plus on block. Let's actually turn on the frame data so you can see that. Apologies for that. So the low, like I said, is insanely plus on block, plus 7 on block. A little bit of pushback there, but I mean, something like Quan Chi that could frame trap for sure into a low. So keep that in mind. And then the overhead is, wait for it, minus 10. So that one isn't quite as good, but still having a low and an overhead mix as a steal and a combo starter that actually scales quite nicely off the low is definitely one of his better steals. I have this as an S tier steal. All right, and lastly coming up is Shang Tsung. So Shujinko steals the young fireballs. However, he can hold the fireballs for no extra charge at all and get 3 of them out, which is actually really, really good. Especially if you have a character who wants to zone, play the zoning game with Shang Tsung, like Quan Chi versus Shang Tsung would be like, haha, Quan Chi has better zoning, plus I also steal your fireballs on top of my fireballs, so, and I can stagger them, hold it as much as I want. It's one of the better one-bar steals in the game, I must say. And then the big bar steal for Shang is we steal the Kameo. And you can see they made a nice change with Shujinko where his bar changes color if he has access to that Kameo. And yeah. And for Tremor specifically, it will change different colors depending on what type of Tremor variation he's in. But from what I can tell, he'll steal whatever is active for the opponent. But yeah, they have Aftershock. We will steal Aftershock, and we will use Aftershock, but we can still cycle between them if you want. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So you're basically giving access to a different Kameo, your opponent's Kameo, so you're kind of stuck with that. But also these extra fireballs. I don't think it's quite strong enough that I would put it in the S tier, but it's still really, really strong, especially if you understand how to use most of the Kameos in the game. Similar to how if you're playing Shang Tsung, you have to learn how to play other characters in the game because you switch between them. Shujinko, love this attention to detail from NetherRealm. You have to learn how to use the other Kameos if you want to use this with Shujinko. So definitely an A tier steal. The only keeping it from S tier is just the amount of stuff going into it to actually learn it. So there are also a couple things that are specific to mirrors, like for example Shang Tsung. If you have Shang Tsung Shujinko versus Shang Tsung Shujinko, Shujinko will just give Shang Tsung his 2-bar power up for free, which is actually really good. But again, both characters have access to that, so there's that. So we've went through pretty much everything that Shujinko can do and all the characters, so let's just, as a refresher, go to our tier list, just so I can show you what that looks like as a visual for everything that we've gone over. Alright, so here's the visual, if it's a little bit easier for y'all. So in the D tier, we have Reiko. Reiko and Shujinko sucks. It's the only matchup I use Motaro in because I like that Kameo, he does well with the zoning. And then C tier, we have Notara and Baraka. Good, decent utility, but also kind of meh. B tier, we have Katana, Kung Lao, Rain, Smoke, Li Mei, and then Shujinko's ambush moves, which again his moves aren't really made to be good, they're just to link into other things, but the fact they link into other things makes them good. B tier for those. A tier, Melina, Sindel, Johnny Cage, Kenshi, Reptile, Ashra, Havoc, Raiden, Tanya, Madame Bo representing Liu Kang. I don't know why this tier list doesn't have Liu Kang. Didn't even realize it until I started making the video. Sorry about that. And then Shang Tsung. Really, really solid cameos. Really, really good. Really, really useful across, I think, the entire cast. Just not enough juice to make them the S tier. And finally, S tier, we have Sub-Zero, which I think is the best in the game. Scorpion, Garrus, General Shao, and Quan Chi. So that's it. Everything Shujinko does from somebody who's played Shujinko since day one, and I'm still learning about him. There's still lots to lab and lots to go over. But yeah, what did you think? What do you think about Shujinko in general? Do you use him? Do you not? Why do you shy away from him? People comment all the time saying you shouldn't stop using Shujinko, use somebody else. I think he's really fun, he's really challenging, he's going to be a long-term cameo that we probably see a little bit more towards the end of the game's life. But that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, because it really helps me out, and subscribe if you haven't, because we make new videos almost every single day. Hashtag Bonehawks, all that stuff, and we'll see all you Bonehawks in the next video.
Accept your death.